Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Jewson, host of the Slumber Party podcast, sleep expert, and nap enthusiast. Today, we are speaking with Ashley about the dreaded early mornings, and I'm so excited to do this. The first early morning episode I had talked about a lot of the variables, and it was just me kind of talking at you, which is quite boring, or it might just be boring for me. It may not be boring for you. I know that there are lots of people who have a podcast where it's just one person talking and they're like really smart and good at it. I just don't feel like that's me. I need someone to talk to. So God bless Ashley for coming on this podcast today and giving you a little meat and potatoes to go along with this. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and hopefully you'll be able to solve all
Yay!
my problems.
Yes, that is my goal as well. Okay, so first things first, I want you to just jump in and I want you to tell me all about what you're experiencing, any sort of issues, anything that you need to know. I will, at the end of your little spiel, I'll pop in and then ask you anything that aren't jumping out at me right away. You'll also see me taking notes as well.
Sounds good. So, pretty much, my daughter Ellie is a little bit over 7 months. And I will say that from the get go, I really, really did all my research and I really tried my best to really instill like really great sleeping habits. I'm very type A. That being said, she is a baby, and
Yes.
although very cooperative and I will say a good sleeper. We did recently transition from 3 to 2 naps about a month or so ago. And at first it was tough, but we've kind of evened out and she's doing fairly well. The main problem that we're having are early morning wakes, which are killing me because I've tried everything and I can't get her to um, kick that habit. I will say that she wakes up. I wake up before her now, which is like driving me crazy because I'm up so early and checking the baby monitor to just see if she's awake and when she wakes up and so on. And then sometimes she does doze back off, sometimes I do. So I really don't know like exactly everything that happens A to B every single day. But she is waking up early, which is kind of confusing me with like the wake windows during the day and then some wakes during nap times and stuff like that. So I'm just hoping for a bit more consistency. And I hate to have her up that early because I feel like she needs that sleep and it's not great to be up that early as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm dealing with right
For sure.
now. Yeah.
Okay, first things first, let's define an early wake for you. What time is she waking?
Her first wake when I kind of hear her, and the other problem that I do have is like she's not always super vocal when she wakes up. So sometimes like I'm checking the monitor, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's awake already, and she hasn't like made any noise. But I'll say anywhere from five. This morning actually was like 4:44 when I looked at my phone, but really normally anywhere from 5 to 5:30. And like I mentioned, she does like most of the time doze back off on and on, like on and off. But that'll normally be like the first time that she is kind of awake and moving around. And I'm just watching her kind of go through all the things.
Yep. Okay. Okay, this is good to know. Talk to me a little bit about how she's falling asleep. So, how does she fall asleep for naps and nighttime?
Completely independently. She's like rolling from belly to back and back to belly. And now crawling is on the horizon. So she will kind
Mm-hmm.
of like go onto her belly, get on all fours, and kind of like do like a like a little dancing movement quite a bit. The second I put her down to go to sleep for the night or for the nap, she immediate flops to her stomach, and she'll kind of do her own thing. But there's no like she goes to sleep completely independently. Normally anywhere from like
Okay.
2 to 5 minutes maybe to fall asleep.
Okay. Okay, and that's good to know. And the reason why I ask that is sometimes when babies aren't going to sleep. So I have an early morning masterclass, plug. It's $29. It's on my website, babiesofasleep.com/masterclasses. I also have a nap masterclass as well. But the reason why I ask, and I'm going to tell you to not buy that course in a second, is if your child is not sleeping independently, we need to rule that out as a variable first. Okay. So that means I say this all the time, and people are like, no, I know you say that, but like it's different because it's my baby. But a lot of people will tell me, Amanda, my baby sleeps independently on their own. I feed them immediately before they fall asleep, and their eyes are kind of closing and opening. But they're on their own. And so it doesn't sound like that's the case for you, but
Not
if
at
you have
all.
to get your baby to a point of like calm, for anyone listening, if you're doing something that gets them to the point where they can sleep, it's probably something you'll want to remove. It also could be something that they're waking for in the morning. So we need to do a really good deep dive into naps and nighttime to make sure that there is nothing helping that baby to sleep or getting drowsy that they would prefer to happen. Okay, great. So my next question is, when she's up really early, is there any like rewards? So are we getting her out and like bringing her back to your bed for early morning cuddles or anything?
Nope.
Okay, great.
Mm-mm.
Again, I ask, and you're like, Amanda, no, that's not my issue. But like 10 other people listening are like, oh, that is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Shit.
Hmm.
So yeah, the early morning cuddles, and I'm coming to this from no place of judgment or saying it's wrong. If you want to bring your baby into your bed, that's totally fine. You just need to know that there's a good chance that they may be waking for that. So if you don't want it, we're probably going to have to stop any rewards. If you have toddlers, like I've heard a lot of things like, oh, they they get up, we just give them a bottle in our bed, or they get up and we give them an iPad. These are big rewards for toddlers and preschoolers. So we're going to want to make sure that that is totally not happening as well. Okay, this is good. So, talk to me about. I'm just gonna double check. It doesn't sound like your baby is eating overnight or in the middle of the night.
No, she's not.
No. Okay.
For a little bit over 2 months now, she's completely sleeps through the night.
Okay. Great. And how much does she weigh?
She weighs 19 pounds.
Great.
Yeah.
How are daytime calories? How is feeding and solids?
She's a pretty good eater. She has 4 daytime bottles that are 7 or 8 ounces, and she'll normally drink the majority of it. But when she leaves it, she leaves it. She did
Okay.
start on solids. She has mostly puree, but I'm thickening it up slowly but surely. Food that's a bit more solid, she has trouble with consistency and stuff, so we're working on it. But overall,
Yeah.
she's good on that end. I think so, anyways.
Good. That sounds like good. One of the things that you may want to think about or consider is like that last meal of the day, fortifying the solids. Obviously, big disclaimer for everybody, your child's allergies. We never want to be introducing brand new foods immediately before bed just to monitor for allergies. Foods that they've never had should be monitored and offered during the daytime hours. But one of the things that you might want to try is fortifying those solids. So things like coconut oil, olive oil, a little bit of that just to fatten up that last meal. Offering protein sources, fatty sources, eggs, avocado. Again, watch your allergies. Don't everyone go and feed your baby an egg when you've never fed your baby an egg. Please don't do that. But you might want to try it during the day, and then if things are going well, you can offer that before night. Okay, so this seems good. So now I want to look at sleep totals because sometimes there are situations where babies are sleeping too little or they're sleeping too much during the day. This feels weird because, oh my God, I'm competing with these blogs right now of people being like, I have a client and she's so lovely and we're finishing and our baby is like smashing life. And she's like, I just have to tell you, I read a blog and they're saying my 6-month old needs to be sleeping 4 to 5 hours a day. And I was like, holy crap, I am like never in my 4 years have I seen that. Most babies, and if you're listening to this, head over to my Instagram and look up my sleep chart, my nap adequacy video. It's under one of my IGTVs, I'm pretty sure. And I talk about adequate sleep pressure. I talk about the length of naps. If you want to imagine, like, this isn't exactly true, but like just for the purposes of what we're discussing, I want you to imagine that every baby has like a little amount of sleep in them, okay, and it's full of their sleep. So every time they sleep, they take a little bit out of that sleep pot, okay. Like if we think of like the pot of gold, I don't know. This is what's in my head. Don't judge me, okay? But we have our pot of gold, and every time a baby sleeps, they take out a little bit of that pot of gold. Now let's say they have 14 coins or 14 hours in them, and we use 2 of those coins during the day, or we use 5 of those coins, that means there's only going to be 9 coins left overnight, right? So then we have to balance it out in some way and shift that. That being said, if baby is not sleeping enough, they could be really overtired, and that creates lots of early morning wakes as well. And I see this mostly with babies transitioning to daycare who are moved to one nap before they're ready. They're overtired. They're not ready to do that. And then 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they're just awake. Why are they awake? Well, let's talk the biology. The melatonin will rise in your body from dusk until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then melatonin's like, meh, we're done. You've slept. We have enough melatonin in you. And then we have cortisol and adrenaline that rise around 4 or 5 in the morning that say, okay, look, it's time for us to be up and at 'em, right? And these are our hormones. Cortisol has a really bad rep, but cortisol literally keeps us upright and moving during the day. So this comes, and so anything that's happening in those early morning times are going to be more pronounced than at any other part of the night. Any waking after 3 a.m. sucks. It's the same reason why you are probably getting up at the same times and probably not going back to bed, because your cortisol is like, ooh, we're getting ready to wake up. Let's do this. So it's a perfect storm. It's a hormonal soup that doesn't really work for us. So going back to that idea of overtiredness, if your baby's kind of overtired, they're going to be more wired. And if they're kind of awake and having a natural wake anyway, it's going to be harder for them to get down at that time. Okay. So talk to me about total daytime sleep. So how many hours total daytime? How many hours total nighttime?
Okay, so daytime, her first nap of the day is pretty consistently an hour and a half.
Okay.
And her second nap of the day will go anywhere between an hour 15 to an hour and a half, but an hour and a half is kind of on the rare side. And lately, I'd say in the past week, she's been waking maybe like an hour, 50 minutes to an hour into her second nap.
Okay. And what
Um,
time is bedtime right now?
right now, well, I'm going on off wake windows, so it'll fall
Mm-hmm.
pretty much anywhere between 6:15 to 6:40 ish.
Okay. And then she's up at 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So right off the top, I see a really common thing that people do, and I did this as well, by the way, before I was a sleep consultant. So what is happening is people get really attached to the wake windows, which I totally understand. So it seems to me that probably we're working on like a 3 hour wake window, 3.5 hours. Is that about
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, the first
Okay.
one is a little bit under 3, only because like I know she's up
Yes.
prior,
Yes.
and then I'm doing
Yeah.
like 3 and a quarter to a half as the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what's going to happen with that is we're kind of always so if she's going to bed at, let's say, 6:15, by 5:40, that's 11 hours, right? She's like, "Woo!
Yeah.
Bright-eyed, bushy-tail. Let's do this."
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, we're speaking like 4 days before daylight savings. I
That's stressing me out
person
too. Yeah.
No, 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 I think this is good for you. This is good for
Okay.
you because I think that you should push up bedtime. but maybe you don't do anything for 4 days, and 6:15 becomes 7:15, 5 a.m. becomes 6 a.m., which is a lot more palatable because we spring forward, right? So this is like you are the only person on the planet who will, well, not the only, but hopefully we'll get this out in a little bit of time. But you really don't have to make a huge transition, which is awesome. So I
Okay.
would keep things the way they are in your case. If you are listening to this and it's not daylight savings, which is more likely than not, what happens is we get to a point where baby is falling asleep, or sorry, getting up early. And then we panic and we're like, I don't want them to be overtired. I'm going to shorten that wake window. The whole day is pulled earlier then, right? Your first nap is probably in the eights. She's done at 9. Then we might have a nap maybe around 1, 2 if we're lucky. Then we get that ends it at 3. Then nap. Oh my God, wake windows. Bed is going to be at 6 because wake windows, right? So our whole day is like vacuum forward. And
Yeah.
so what I would say is a baby who's getting 11 hours of sleep, we are really, like, most kids are getting between 10 to 12 hours of sleep. 12 hours of sleep, I've said this on this podcast before, is a unicorn. It is a unicorn. And like, it's so rare. Most kids are getting about 11, with a good chunk in the tens as well, because daytime sleep is great. So if we're getting 11 hours or close to it, then it's going to be really hard for me to pull that out for you, with the exception um, uh, of pushing a bedtime, which is going to happen really naturally with you. You don't have to really mess with her body clock. The first day you do it might be challenging. And for anyone listening, I would try to push out by 15 minutes every 3 days. And instead of following a wake window based on that first waking, because this might happen after too, right? What I tell my clients is, always assume the baby was waking at 6. Okay. And if we assume that wake window from 6, we can calculate that wake window from there. Oh, there's baby now. She's awake from her nap.
It's
Yeah.
okay, Daddy's got
I
it.
know. Totally. I trust you. Do you know the most annoying thing in my whole fucking life is when I went back to work at 4 months, everyone asked me who was watching my baby. And I was like, "Oh," like, by the end of the year, I would say, like, "What baby? I don't know. Aren't you watching?" Like, it's so insulting. I 100% assumed, Ashley, that there was a responsible
You didn't think she was
adult
making
looking
her
after.
own bottle?
Oh my God, nothing triggers me more than that. Honestly, it's like, oh, who's watching the kids? Like, I did a business trip and I was on the plane. Well, this was like pre-COVID. And someone asked me on the plane, oh, it's so nice that your husband lets you do that. I'm like, oh my God. No one says it to my husband. I know, it's wild. Okay, off track. That's okay. So I told you we'd get to a point where I said something about my husband. There you go. Okay, so then what you can also do instead of wake windows is move towards what's called a forced or a fixed schedule, where we say nap at 9:30, nap at 1:30, bed at 7. Okay. And I think in order to push that morning a little bit, we need to get a 7 o'clock bedtime in there. And it can take a while. It can take a while to push to that point, because baby is so used to getting up at a certain time. And this is actually why I wanted to have you on, because I really, really, really want to talk about body clocks. And I'm going to try to space out this episode so it comes out really close to daylight savings. So everyone is like in it and listening to it and they're like, I get it. Here I am. But our body clocks are only programmable generally within an hour. And if you think about daylight savings, it takes us like a month to feel normal with the new times. Spring forward is a time where we have to go to bed earlier because 9 p.m. is the new, or our 9 p.m. now is 10 p.m. next week.
Right.
Okay, so then if we go to bed at 10, our bodies are like, girl, it's 9. We don't do that. So it's really hard. The same goes for these early morning wakings. And I wrote this down in my notes here. You said it. I'm waking up before her because now your body clock is set, right? So now
Totally.
she's like, I get up, this is what I do. um I would be very cognizant of the body clock, because I feel like parents think it's a really fixable problem. And for some of you listening, I do feel like we don't have to do anything for you. Let's wait for this time change, it will shift. And I
Okay.
also think, like, even if it wasn't time change, pushing your bedtime at an hour, I think would fix it, because she's
Mhm.
getting enough sleep. Everything in your day looks good, calories look good, tick tick tick, okay, you're done. But for the average person, they're going to do all of this. You're going to take my early morning master class, and nothing's going to shift for you. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong, it's because baby has a body clock. And there are people like, it's funny, all of my early rising clients are early risers themselves. It's genetic. And so, are you an early riser, by the
Yeah.
way?
Normally, I mean, like not like 5 a.m., but like
You're a morning person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, and what I find with my early morning clients is they're like, look, I get it, but that's usually me time. I want that time for myself to be awake. I want my kid to sleep. So a lot of this is the body clock. We have an internal what's the right word, thing in our brain, and it basically drives a lot of our rhythms. You're going to have morning people, you're going to have night owls, and that's not going to be anything that you can really change. I am a night owl, and I've tried my whole life to be a morning person. And I where is it, the Why We Sleep book by Matthew Walker, he talks, I reference that book a lot, because I've looked up this a lot, and it's written in very, very like challenging language. But Matthew Walker basically says, like, there are these two people who put themselves into a cave, okay? And no matter what, their body knew, even if they didn't have light exposure, their body knew when to wake up. And we actually have a longer body clock than 24 hours, like maybe just slightly longer than 24 hours, but your body has a rhythm that's just innate. So some of this can be solvable, some of it can't. A few quick tips if you're not already doing this. Light exposure is a bitch, and we're listening. I hope that you're listening to this in the spring. You need to make sure that you have like 2 layers of garbage bags if you don't want your children to be responding to the sun, because like having that natural wake time, we are also creatures of the sun. We are earthlings, okay? And so when the sun comes up, we're like, okay, I'm ready to go no matter what, right? Like, I always think about as well, um my husband and I, well, my whole family, not just my husband and I, my whole family moved out of the city this summer. And my in laws had my kids, and it was just like my husband and I. It was so wild. We had no window coverings at all. It was mid August. The sun was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And we were like, oh my God, we could not get back to sleep. We're grown people who want to sleep. We couldn't. And imagine being a little baby that's like, woo, the sun is coming up. I don't have any social context about why I shouldn't be awake. So make sure your room is super dark. I have the hand rule. If you can see your hand, it's too bright. If you can go into your child's room right now and see your hand, it's too bright. Get a couple layers of garbage bags. Obviously, if it's safe to do so. If your toddler can grab them, or your preschooler, it's not safe to have giant bags in their room. Don't put those up there. But if you have a baby, that can work quite well. Um, we talked about body clock. Body clocks are hard to change. It'll take about a month. So those of you who are listening who are like, oh damn, I'm not as lucky as Ashley, and I'm not going to just be able to like slide into this beautiful time change. It'll be harder for you than her. Know that it takes anywhere between 3 or 4 weeks. And remember the time change feeling. Remember how hard it is to go to bed earlier, and you're going to wake up probably at the same times, right? So give your child grace. Give them about 3 to 4 weeks before you're seeing those big changes. Okay.
Sounds good for sure.
Awesome. Was that helpful?
No, that was super, super helpful. And like everything else on paper, like you said, looks good. Like her daytime sleep, like, and even like in the upcoming like couple of months, like, do I need to make any big changes to kind of avoid like the early mornings creeping back up?
I think that the only instance where the early mornings would creep up is light exposure, which is really common. So between the months of April and May, my biggest question will be early mornings, which is why I'm trying to get this podcast out now. I think that light exposure is crucial, but if she is a little bit of an early riser, oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. I would get rid of that monitor in your room as well. Would you be able to hear her if you had your door open?
And if she started crying?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I think too, like what I was hearing too, like you're waking, you're seeing her, she's doing like really normal early morning stuff because of that cortisol hike and the melatonin dip. You're seeing, like, if I put a camera on you at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're doing the same thing. You're on your phone, right? So it's providing more stress. Like she might be in and out of sleep and dozing in and out of sleep and reducing sleep pressure.
And
So
that's stressing
she
me
might
out.
actually, it's stressing you out.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, so like disclaimer again, I'm not saying everyone don't have the baby monitor. I'm not saying don't check on your baby. I'm saying if you think that you would hear them and it's safe to do so, or maybe we even put the monitor on the other side of the room, face down. So you have to get up to get it and you really have to work to hear it. That's good because monitors also amplify every sound, every snort, breath, cough.
Mhm.
So I don't love them for that reason. I think that they cause a lot of anxiety accidentally. So
That
get
makes
rid
a
of
lot of
that
sense.
monitor. Yeah. And the other thing for you too, you're setting your body clock. Every time you get up and you look at your phone is like a replicate sun, which is why we want to avoid it before bed. Because it's like, oh, we don't have to produce any melatonin. It's sunlight out. So when you get
Right.
up at 4 and are like, ding, your body's like, ooh, that's when the sun comes up. Let's get ready for that tomorrow. It'll take a little while for you to wean yourself from the addiction, but I think it'll really help everyone with that early morning as well.
Okay. That's some good advice that I will
Yay!
definitely take.
I'm telling you, I slept with like a monitor for a while, and it like, are you in Toronto?
Montreal.
Okay, so
Mhm.
maybe it's a little bit different in Montreal, but like Toronto, like it's every like small houses. It's like I could hear my baby like cough without the monitor. I don't need the monitor making it sound like cough, cough, cough. It
That's
just like everything's so much worse.
that's true.
All right. Well, Ashley, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And guys, if you do want to get on a call with a member of our team, chances are, I got to be honest with you, we're probably not going to take you on just for early morning wakes. As you see, there's so many variables. It's why we created the early morning masterclass. It's a cheap and cheerful way for you to get the results that you want. However, if your baby isn't sleeping independently yet, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, you can head over to babysbestsleep.com, book a call with myself or any member of our team. We'd love to help you. If you're on a budget, head over to this podcast. You're here, thank God. Instagram or the blog, where we really lay everything out there as well for you. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Bye.